Hello, I am a probationary firefighter. I've been a firefighter since I was 17 years old, and I just wanted to talk about it's okay to mess up. Right now I am 20 years old. I just started a new department in January. I also did their fire academy there at that department. I'm not going to tell you which department it is because I don't want to dox to myself, but I just want to talk about how it's okay to mess up. And I have a really hard time uh, realizing that because I make a lot of mistakes. So I'm just going to tell you a couple stories of how I messed up and how it's basically normal. So one day we are doing a training, driving and operating training, and we were driving the brush truck, and so I'm driving the brush truck. And earlier that day we did a truck checks off, and so I was in charge of the chainsaws. So I turned on the chainsaw on the K12, and I checked the oil and the bar oil, and I put it back, and I didn't think of anything of it. Then we go out into a random parking lot to do the driving training, and after I got done with the training, I noticed that there was leaking on the floor, and so I opened up the compartment where we kept our chainsaws because that's where the leaking was at. And turns out that I did not screw on the cap tight enough on the bar oil on the chainsaw, and so the bar oil spilled all over the compartment and was leaking onto the floor. So there was no more bar oil inside that chainsaw, so I wasted a lot of bar oil that day. And then so my captain finds out, and I get my ass chewed out, and then that's it. We're done. And now part of the training is to drive the brush truck back. And our brush truck at our department is pretty old. So when you get really fast, the steering wheel gets a little rickety. And so I'm driving, and I get onto the highway, and I'm going 40. And the speed limit is 60. And it's just me and my cap. And so my cap's like, hey, you gotta at least drive the speed limit. And this was my very first time driving this brush truck. And so I go faster, 40, 45, 50, 55, and so on. And I think by about like 50, the wheel starts to shake. And before we started the truck, he said, you got little correct movements. You got to do really little correction movements, or else you'll drift this truck. And so I thought I was doing little corrective movements, but I guess I overcorrected, and the whole back started spinning out, and I was basically drifting this truck. And so I pull over the side, and my cap starts driving again, and then we drive back to the station. And then after a couple of minutes, after my, a little adrenaline dump settles down, we have a little talk, and my cap basically just says it's okay to make mistakes. And normally this guy ran the fire academy, and normally during the fire academy he's yelling at us and making us do push-ups and whatnot, but this time he gave me a really like heart-to-heart talk, and how basically saying that it's okay to make mistakes and we're all human. Because I felt really bad to him, because I went up to him and I was like, hey Cap, like, can I buy you a Red Bull? And he said, if every time someone buys me a Red Bull when they mess up, I would have had a heart attack by now. Which I thought was pretty funny, because he was also drinking a Red Bull for dinner at 7 p.m. But anyways, and so he's giving me this talk of how it's okay to mess up. And so, yeah, and then I'm after this talk, I finished this shift, and everything's great. And now my last shift, I messed up again. Probably not as I don't know if it was as bad as that mess up story, but I'm with the same captain, and we get called out for a structure fire. And when we got there, the guy basically put out like he basically lit half the house up, like his whole like left wall on fire on the exterior of the house, but he was able to get it out with a garden hose. And so we show up and we basically just do overhaul. There was no fire to put out. And my partner that was with me, I guess I wasn't listening well, but from what he was telling me, I interpreted him to that he was telling me to. So basically, this house was on a side of a hill, and there was a balcony that was like on fire that we were like taking apart. And I interpreted him like, "Hey, we want to get this hose on top of this balcony." And so I go around and I go inside the house to walk up onto the balcony because I can't like because the balcony was like elevated, like it was up to our face, and so we could get the hose up. Turns out my captain was on that balcony, and he told us to just stay put, and I did not stay put because I was trying to do what I thought I was told. And so I open up this sliding door, and I see that same cap on the balcony. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I thought we were supposed to. I was just going out so so he could pass me the hose so I could put it on top of the balcony." And then I turned around and left, and then a couple hours after the call, after we were all done, we're heading inside the truck, and he was basically, "Oh, what did we do good? Okay, what did we do bad?" And I brought it up that, hey, I should have asked more clarifying questions, but he was pretty upset with me about that, and which is so weird because I thought I did really well in the fire academy, and like if there was a test question that basically said like, "Oh, your buddy tells you to do this, but your cap tells you to stay still, like what do you do?" I would have for sure just said stay still, but it's just different when it's not on a test. It's like weird because this was my very first structure fire on this department, or structure fire ever, and so I just beat myself up, and I was like, "Oh, I should have just stayed put." That was so dumb of me. Like, and my cap was basically saying like, what if the house was filled with like carbon monoxide or some form of gas or whatever, and with the littlest spark of it being lit, I could have died, or if the incident command wanted everyone to get out and everyone took a personal accountability report, I wouldn't be accounted for because I guess my partner didn't know I was going inside the house, and obviously that was the worst worst comes to worst situation, but it still sucks, so I don't know, this is just a little rant about how it's okay to mess up. So thanks for listening.